Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to Knowledge India once again. This is the part two of the interview series tutorial. If you have not watched the first video in this series, you can find the link in the description and on the top right corner. I request you to watch that video first and then you can come and watch this particular video. For all of those who showed their love and support on the first video, real thanks. And in this particular video, we are going to further discuss about all the different scenarios which we talked in the first video. So just a recap, we said that a particular application needs to be moved from on-prem to cloud, and you are kind of asking questions, different questions for this migration. And in the first video, we actually listed down these different questions as you can see on the screen. And we said that as a senior person, or if you are going for a senior role, you should be able to actually ask such questions, and then based on the answer which you get for these questions, you can put the strategy. So we had listed down the questions already. Now in this video, we will try to answer you know, these questions. We'll try to look at the possible answers for everything here, and then we'll see what services to be used. Now in this video, I would not go and start explaining each and every service, of course, otherwise it will become very big. We do have a lot of videos on our channel if you want to learn specific services. I'll try to uh, keep it only up to the reasoning level, that why we are choosing a particular service, right? That way we will try to discuss. Let us go ahead and get started. And in case you feel that it is useful and you want to support us, please go ahead and share our videos. You can also join our YouTube membership by pressing the join button below. Okay, let us move ahead. So the first question is, why do you want to move this app to cloud? Now, there can be multiple answers for this. As you can see, it is a DC exit, latency problem, performance issues, and other stuff which are written. Now, how would this question help you? Uh, Depending on the fact that whether it is like first application for that customer which is going to cloud, or it's not the first application, rather it is just any other application which is gonna go to cloud. It gives you a lot of pointers about some additional work which you might have to do. So let's understand this. If it's a scenario that the customer is new and this is the first application which is chosen to be moved to cloud, you will have to consider certain additional things like, um, how do we go ahead and actually set up our VPC to start with, right? Um, what would be the CIDR range or CIDR block which we'll use with our VPC in the cloud? That would involve your interaction the with the customer's network guys or the network team, and you'll have to discuss with them that, okay, give us a range of private IPs with which I can go ahead and create the VPC on cloud. You will also have to discuss few more things, that how would the connectivity happen between on-prem and cloud, whether we need to go ahead and establish connectivity with the help of VPN, site-to-site VPN, or we should go with something like direct connect. Based on the requirement that how much data needs to be transferred between on-prem and cloud, such decisions would be taken. But at minimum, whether you need to set up VPC or not. If you have to set up VPC, then of course there are more questions, that how big the public subnet should be, how big the private subnet should be. At minimum, you need to have uh, your subnets are spread across two availability zones, right? In order to facilitate high availability. So at minimum, two public subnets in two different availability zones and two private subnets in two different availability zones, right? So as I talk, we'll be touching upon different services, and you will be able to see the related video links for these services on the top right I button. If you will press, you will get the related videos for it, and you can go ahead and watch those. Okay, so all right. So now here is the thing. If it is we said that if it is a new application or first application, if it is first application, you need to think about these additional things. If there are already other applications on cloud for this customer, then okay, probably you need to just understand that, okay, give us the details about existing VPC and whether this application is a public facing or it is internal, and based on that you will decide the subnets where you will be creating your resources, right? If it is you might look at certain other things like latency, performance issues, those type of things. If and these things kind of come into picture if it's a if the customer is moving to the cloud for the first time. Let's say uh, in terms of choosing the region on cloud, whether person should go for Mumbai region or Singapore or Tokyo or Sydney, or which region should be chosen, such questions do help us at that time. But if customer already has some presence on cloud, then there are high chances that in the same region you will go ahead and put it. But there can always be other scenarios as well, right? It may be that the customer has presence already in Mumbai region, but this new application which is gonna move is more for the users who are spread across Singapore, Malaysia, and that type of region. So you would go ahead and probably then suggest a region like Singapore for this application. So you need to take care of legal requirements, you need to take care of latency, you need to take care of availability of services, right? The application which you are trying to move, what all services would it consume, and whether those services are available in the selected AWS region or not. That's a very important factor. Generally, the cost would be the last thing which you will consider. You will consider all these other factors first. Okay, so all right, so based on that, you will take certain decisions. How much of code change are you okay with? Now, whenever we are moving an application from on-prem to cloud, it is a very good opportunity for us to suggest the usage of managed services. What am I saying with this? Let's say in case of on-prem, when this application was running in customer's own data center, it was using a relational database, let us say SQL Server or Oracle, something like this. Now the customer was using a VM on which this database server was installed, and hence a DBA was also required to manage this database. Now, whenever we are moving an application to cloud, at that time you can suggest certain small changes, right? That why don't we go ahead and use a service like RDS, relational database service, and we can have RDS SQL Server or RDS Oracle, and that would, because this RDS is going to be a managed service, it would save considerable human effort for you, right? You can also go one step ahead, and if the customer is ready for some amount of code development, or I should say some amount of code change, if the customer is ready to do, you may suggest certain better alternatives like usage of RDS PostgreSQL, or basically Aurora Postgres or Aurora MySQL. So we have a video on Aurora which you can go and watch. Aurora is designed in such a way that it is a relational database, but it gives you many additional advantages which you might not get with some of the traditional relational databases. And in terms of software licensing cost, it is going to be a lot cheaper than that of Oracle and SQL Server, right? So basically, you need to understand that if the customer is looking at no code change at all, or a customer is okay with some amount of change. So let's say if this example, if customer doesn't want to do any change at all, then you will mostly go with lift and shift, right? You will just figure out that how many instances are there in the on-prem, same that many machines you create there, and you just install the software, move it. If customer is ready for certain minor configuration changes, you may go ahead and suggest things like suggest usage of managed services, right? Managed services like RDS or something else. But please understand, it should not, here only configuration changes are being talked. So customer would not expect to do any code change. If customer is ready for code change, then you may suggest use adoption of more cloud native services. Let's say usage of SQS, SNS, uh, things like Aurora, etc. I talked, because then code change would be required, right? You may also say that start storing all the files on S3, right? Such type of change you can talk. Okay. Now further, on the cloud, what is the RTO and RPO requirements? This basically tells you that how are you going to do the deployment, right? Whether you are going to do in one region or two regions. See, in a region, at least two availability zones is a minimum recommended thing. So there is normally nobody would go and argue on that. At minimum, you should go ahead and run a system in two availability zones within one region. But further to that, the point is whether whether the customer wants even higher availability, and if that is the case, you may go for two regions, right? So now when you go for two regions, there are different DR models which are there in place. I would not cover all the four DR models here. I'll put a separate video around that and I can explain. But RTO and RPO would differ in all the four, right? And of course, as you improve on RTO and RPO, you spend more money. If you want to improve on RTO and RPO, you need to spend more money. Like the best model would be, active. You have two regions and both the regions are active, right? In that case, you spend maximum money, but then your RTO RPO would be highly improved. So at minimum, remember, run in two availability zones in one region. But if customer wants even better, then you go for two regions altogether. And many of the times people think that how do we route the traffic between two regions? The answer is Route 53. This channel teaches you AWS and Azure in really easy and practical manner. There are a lot of demonstration videos already on the channel. As you can see, a lot of professionals got benefited from our videos, and you can read about them here. So if you are new, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Next thing is, you already know about services like multi-AZ RDS. I have a video on that. So you know in a region, for your database, use multi-AZ RDS. Put a cross-region read replica into another region in case you are going for two regions. I have a video on that as well. For your application layer, use auto scaling group and spread your instances across two availability zones. And your load balancer also should spread across two subnets which are there in two different availability zones. So if you do that way very properly, your whole setup would be there. And one more thing which we should actually take care: in your production scenario, have two NAT gateways, one in every availability zone. There is a video where I have explained VPC related doubts. I suggest you to watch that video. Very helpful video that one is. And there will be a very good architecture diagram which you can refer, and that should help you. Anyway, moving ahead, what load balancer are you using? So normally in the on-prem world, you will see that people use F5 load balancer a lot. Now, the way it is done is, there will be a server on which they would go ahead and install and manage the load balancer software. But in case of AWS, when you're moving your workload to AWS, you need not go and have your own a load balancer software installed. You may choose from different options. So you have got your classic load balancer, you have got your ALB, application load balancer, and NLB. So now don't go for classic load balancer because that's old and gonna get retired. Depending on the type of traffic, if you are looking at running a website type of thing, which mostly runs on HTTP and HTTPS, then ALB is your choice. If you are looking at running some other custom protocol, and uh, then probably NLB is the better choice. We have detailed videos on that. You can go and watch it. But always remember that you should look at using managed load balancer service from Amazon, and you should choose properly that which load balancer you will go ahead and select. Then in our case, it's a web application type of thing, so ALB would be the right answer. What OS is there on the machines? Now, Here the important point is, uh, if the customer is currently using an old operating system which is not supported on cloud, then you have more work to discuss. Let's say customer is still using 2008 type of thing, right? And 2008 is kind of getting unsupported from most of the cloud platforms. So then you have more things to discuss. But if it is 2012 onwards, Windows 2012 onwards, it's okay. Even 2012 is not that recommended. You should at least go for 2016 now. In the same way for different RHEL versions. Now, let's not go to a specific OS, but the point is what version is being used, whether the application can be migrated or can be deployed on a machine with the latest operating system. That is something which you should check. While you are doing the movement to cloud, it is highly recommended that you go for the latest operating system. That would really help you, so that in long run you do not have to worry about once again upgrading. So try and use as much as possible the latest operating system for your instances. Okay, and in terms of the licensing of operating system on the cloud, you need to do a detailed study. Now I will link a video here where I have explained that properly. I suggest you to watch that and understand. See, one option is very simple. You can just always go for license included model. You can go and pick up from the first step when you are launching the EC2 instance. But enterprises many times do not go with that option. They will have their own agreement with the OS vendor. So I suggest you to watch that video, please, where I've explained all of that. Next is which app server is running and version, etc. This is more from perspective of looking at the compatibility, right? So which version of app server was running, whether it is compatible with the operating system version, any other custom installation which you need to do on the server, all that compatibility you need to check, guys, right? What DB you are using. I think DB part we have already discussed, that how you can go ahead and suggest to use better managed databases. Now, many of the times it would happen that you would not be able to use a managed database. Let's say in your on-prem, you are using SQL Server Enterprise and you are making use of SSIS and SSRS. Now, RDS SQL Server which you get doesn't have SSIS, SSRS. So in that scenario, you would not be able to use RDS SQL Server. So you need to really try and compare the features that the database which is getting used, what features are getting used of that database, and whether the managed version on AWS supports those features or not. If yes, then go with the managed one. If no, then you will have to go back and put an EC2 instance and install the database. Okay, so that is the answer here. Let's move further. See, what I'm trying to give you here is that what are the factors which you should look at, and if you start looking at those factors, then you would be able to find out the answer as well. These are the pointers for you to go ahead and explore further. All right, if it is a public facing website, right, if it is an internal website, then you have lesser trouble, because you can just put all the resources in the private subnets. You can have a VPN or direct connect from your on-prem, and your guys can access it. But if it is a public facing website, then you need to look at certain other things, which are like, how do you control or how do you filter out malicious traffic, coming to your website? How can you do that? So there's an offering called WAF, Web Application Firewall. You may go ahead and use that to basically secure secure your application, and you can filter out all the malicious requests coming to your application. We haven't put a video on WAF yet, but we'll put that soon. uh, it should be out in next week for sure. Next is, if it is a public facing website, you may also suggest to your customer that should we go ahead and use CloudFront, which is the CDN service, and it can actually help increase or boost the performance of your website. We have detailed videos on CloudFront which you can go ahead and watch. All right, how's the spread of your customer? Kind of, it is related to the CDN part which I said. Based on, if your customer is not spread to many places, and the website is not so heavily used, you might not go ahead with CDN. But if it is a heavily used website, CDN would surely help. So I think these points we covered, WAF and all of those things. What is the one more point? If it is a public facing website, always see that in your architecture, the outermost layer, right, should always be a managed service. So in a public facing website, what would be the outermost layer? Load balancer would be the outermost layer. So load balancer is a managed service. If I mean, using WAF is optional, you may choose not to use it. So even without WAF, without CDN, at least your load balancer is a managed service. Why am I saying that? If you are using a managed service, the chances of it going down is lot lesser, right? If people start sending a lot of traffic, your load balancer automatically scales. That's why in your architecture, always keep the outermost layer as a managed service. All right, moving ahead, we discussed this. What is the current sizing of servers? Now, this part, many people have asked me that we are moving our application to cloud, right? How do we go ahead and choose the correct instance type? Is there any formula for that? Unfortunately, the answer is no. There is no formula. So how do we go about it? My suggestion is that first of all, you should, uh, if it is an existing application, try to figure out what is the configuration in your data center and try to pick up something similar on cloud. You should also, before you go out and put the production workload, you should do a load testing, which is very important. So in your load testing, go ahead and uh, try to load your application with 1,000 users, 5,000 users, depending on how your business is. Do that type of load testing and see how are your chosen instance types performing. Based on that, you may have to do second or third round of load testing as well. So if you the point is, if you are going for prod without doing the load testing, then be ready for some surprises. It might happen that you strike it right, or it might happen that you don't get it right. So you will have to be very conscious. You need to keep looking at your CloudWatch regularly, and based on that, based on your CloudWatch metrics, you can actually adjust your instance type after some time. So my suggestion would be, don't do the reservation very quickly as soon as you create your instances on cloud. Don't do the reservation at that time itself. Wait for some time to be confident that what instance types are suitable for your application, and after that you can go ahead and do the reservation. That would be a better thing, right? If you are able to do load testing, it will give you a, a better approximation, I would say. At least in terms of choosing the family, that's quite obvious. If you are going to run website, you will choose M series, right? If you want to run something like Tableau, ClickView, etc., you will mostly go for R series instances, and so on. All right, how is the workload variation? How much variation? Is there any pattern? These questions are going to help you basically to decide whether you need to go for auto scaling, right? And remember, uh, so okay, how would auto scaling group help you? You know that it helps you to basically scale out a layer or scale in based on the demand, and hence you are not wasting capacity, you are not wasting resources, you save money. Uh, when you actually set up auto scaling group, in order to make sure that your application is able to make use of auto scaling group, you need to also take care that your application is stateless. What does that mean? You have to ensure that your application is not storing the session information, not storing session information on the app server, right? Or on the EC2 instance, basically, I'm saying. So you should go ahead and store it in an external, store it in external DB. It could be a fast RDS, it could be DynamoDB, it could be Elasticache, you know. There are so many options, but you need to choose one out of these. The point is, if you store session information in an external store, then your application is stateless. Any instance, any EC2 instance can come up or go down without affecting your application much. You don't need to enable session stickiness in that case, right? No need to enable session stickiness. So take care of this thing. If you are writing a new application, take care of this thing. or if with the small changes in your existing application you can bring you can make it stateless, go ahead and do that. That would really really help you. What is the current backup strategy? Now this is going to be an important one. What all do we need to back up? See, database, of course, you will back up. Now, if you are going with RDS, you can just enable automatic backup, right? And you can choose a time window where when the read write is actually when the write is lot lesser. Go ahead and choose that window. Um, if you are using your own EC2 instance and installing database server on that, then your DBA will have to take care of it. It's very important to decide on the retention period, that for how long do you want to keep the backups. Now, in case of RDS, maximum is only 35 days, but that should be more than enough, right? Uh, in case you want to keep more, you may go ahead and do some automation, and you can create you can go ahead and create um, manual snapshots. That's possible. You can do that. And manual snapshots do not have any retention period. They will be there they will be there forever, unless until you go ahead and delete those snapshots. Okay, so you can do that. In addition to that, you may also look at keeping an image of your application server, right? Keeping an image, initial image. If you are using auto scaling group to launch your application servers, you need not keep doing the backup, because you would have written your application stateless, and hence you are using your EC2 instances only for processing. You are not storing anything there, right? If you want to store any files as such, you should go ahead and store it where? You should store it in S3. Don't store it on EC2 instance, okay? Or in case you want a shared file system across all your instances, go ahead and use EFS. So that way, if your instance goes down, you are not losing anything. That's very important, right? So any persistent file in S3 or EFS, anything which is DB type of information or DB type of data, put it into a relational database or any other database. Don't keep it on the EC2 instance. That's very, very important. Last one is the logs, right? So what do you do about the logs? Where do you go ahead and put it? In the on-prem scenario, people used to keep the logs in their, on the machine itself, and they used to have a routine to move it out regularly, and they were not keeping it for that long. The good thing is on cloud, you can go ahead and very quickly push all the logs to S3, right? Push the logs to S3, and then you can also have you can put lifecycle policy, right, to actually decide that how long do you want to keep it in the standard storage, and then make it standard IA, infrequent access, that model, and then you can go ahead and delete that as well. So that's the thing. Um, you may also choose to push the logs to CloudWatch logs, and then you can go ahead and then you can go ahead and actually uh, you know do certain search pattern. You can like basically set up some search pattern and look for error codes, and then go ahead and create alarms over the custom metrics. For example, if you have, let's say, Apache server, and every time server side error is happening, you may go ahead and count it as a metric, one occurrence, and when X number of such occurrence has happened, you may go ahead and create an alarm. I will put a video on that as well. It is not there yet. Last one is monitoring. Uh, so uh, Actually, I gave the example of Apache so that you can understand for monitoring. So you can push any application server log, etc., to CloudWatch log. In addition to that, anything like OS application or DB level logs, also you can go ahead and push to CloudWatch, and then make use of it. So that's like all the different options which you can suggest, and you can say that how you will use different AWS services to actually go ahead and land this application onto cloud. And I hope you understand where we have used which service and why. What is the reason? In case you have any doubt, you may go ahead and put it in the comment section. And in case you like this and you understood, go ahead and tell us about that as well in the comment section. Uh, I have not covered many of the security services which generally we will put on the cloud. I will do a separate video on this. In this video, I wanted to cover all the different AWS services which you will use to actually land the application successfully onto cloud. I hope you learned something, and don't forget to go ahead and watch other videos which you will find by pressing on the I button on the top right. Stay safe, keep learning. We'll meet again in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye. Congrats on completing that tutorial. We have a lot more similar awesome tutorials on our channel which you can go through in the playlist section. Let us know what do you think about our videos in the comment section, and if you like it, please do share it with your friends and hit the like button. Thank you.